Welcome back. Thanks again for joining us for another episode as we continue studying through the Word of God together. We are in the book of Judges, chapter 15, as we're going to continue covering one of the more well-known characters, for lack of a better word, judges in this book, and that is Samson. We got done talking about the fact that he went down for what he thought was be a wedding, and what we're going to learn today is, unbeknownst to him, the bride was given to someone else. They thought he didn't like him, and now we're going to see a bit of chaos and a struggle from that. Can I just chat? One of the things we're going to look at in the next couple of episodes is really going to look at the unique, different way that God used Samson to defeat this enemy. Philistines were over them. We'll notice that in the next episode, but everybody acknowledged that, kind of almost annoyed that Samson would do this. And so God really used Samson to annoy them and kind of like bring grief into the Philistines in a very, very different way. He didn't just go to them at war with an army. He went at them really by himself. And so we're going to look at one of these many events in this situation, starting in chapter number 15. It says this: after some days, at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson went to visit his wife with a young goat. And he said, "I will go into my wife in the chamber." But her father would not allow him to go in. And her father said, "I really thought that you utterly hated her, so I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister more beautiful than she?" Now, I'll be honest, you read this, there's just so many things you look at that are uncomfortably wrong with what's going on. That just continues. The Philistines, just a carnal, calloused people, and you're going to see that. So obviously, he'd assumed that Samson, because remember in the last time, she had tricked him to give them the answer to the riddle, and they were able to win this in this little bet, the bet they had with him, and he got very mad at her, so he assumed it was a problem. She married someone else. So it's what the father was going to do. He was going to still find a way to resolve this very Middle Eastern cultural type of approach. Well, then you get a situation. He comes back. He doesn't realize this. Obviously, he wouldn't come back to his wife if he had come to the conclusion that she'd been given to another man. He comes back, and the father stops him. No, I gave her away. I gave her to someone else. He was coming down, expecting to spend some time with his wife, expecting this whole process to take place, and all of a sudden, he finds this not to be true. Well, then the father says, "Well, isn't his sister even more beautiful than she?" I know he was kind of trying to protect face, save face, I guess you would say. It's just a horrible thing to say. But you look at this entire process, you're going to see that the process is just unnatural in a lot of areas when you look at it from just what's right. But you're going to see that this only caused more grief for Samson. And again, one of the ways that God used Samson to cause grief to his enemy. Verse number 3, it says, "And Samson said to them, 'This time I shall be innocent in regard to the Philistines when I do them harm.' So Samson went and caught 300 foxes and took torches, and he turned them tail to tail and put a torch between each pair of tails. And when he had set fire to the torches, he let the foxes go into the standing grain of the Philistines, and set fire to the stacked grain and the standing grain, as well as the olive orchards. Then the Philistines said, 'Who has done this?'" So what we look at, he gets angry and he's looking for a way. He could have just gone and physically assaulted. We've done that before, but he thought, I'm going to find a more creative way. He's going to go at it differently. And so he finds. Now, just think about how much work it would have taken for him to find 300 foxes. I don't think these are lined up ready for him to tie their tails together and set them on fire. The physical ability of this man was just being shown more and more. Well, then he sends them through their fields. He sends them through the fields and then the wheat that had already been harvested. He sends them through both of those, and it just burns it down. Now, you take into account, you've got the food they've taken. You've got their, not only their economy, because remember, this area is very agriculture in its economy. You sell the food, you sell the things you've harvested. And so they're losing food they're going to eat. They're losing money, losing so many things. So he's not just taking them out. He's going at their economy. He's going at their hunger. He's going at them in so many different approaches, causing more and more grief. Now, what we're going to learn is that the Philistines caught on to the fact that they themselves could not handle Samson. But God, I think, was working to make them angry enough to want to. And ultimately, this does work to a great loss on the part of the Philistines and them losing the power they have over the Israelites, but not in a way you would normally think. So let's continue and look down and see what happens. We were in verse 6 here just a second ago. I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong chapter there. It says, "Then the Philistines said, 'Who has done this?' And they said, 'Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he has taken his wife and given her to his companion. And the Philistine came up and burned her and her father with fire. And Samson said to them, if this is what you do, I swear I will be avenged on you, and after that I will quit. And he struck them hip and thigh with a great blow, and he went down and stayed in the cleft of the rock of Edom. Now, we look into the next. He gets angry. They go and kill her. They kill what would have been his wife, should have been his wife, and her father. Simply just annoying. Remember, they threatened to do this before. When it didn't happen before, they threatened to burn down the house. They threatened to kill them. Well, they were true to their word, and they killed them both and burnt them down, which of course angered Samson. He goes, what in the world? Who do you people think you are? Is this the way you're going to be? And so at this point, he gets even more angry. Now, it's a unique phrase that says he struck him hip and thigh. I was reading up on that a little bit ago. I mean, it literally could have been something as simple as some person said that it was some kind of martial arts move where maybe he kicked them and used that form to cause grief, or maybe he was just beating them in their hips and thighs and caused the damage. Either way, he caused them another great amount of pain in doing this, and he caused them more and more grief, only, of course, greater anger towards this people, causing exactly what God is planning to do. And again, it comes down to Samson just approached all of this differently than initially God had planned. And God's like, I'm just going to go ahead and let this work and use this as an opportunity to accomplish my ultimate purpose, which he ultimately did. And we'll get into that in the next few episodes as we walk through it. And we look at this. And you get to see the carnality, the evilness of these people, the evil aspect. You get to see why they needed to be thrown off. And again, we live in a very similar society where some of the things that we look and say, why would they think that? Why would they do that? We live in a culture like that today, and there is uniqueness. There should be a difference, a uniqueness for us in that culture. But unfortunately, just like in the Bible days, it happens today. And we're going to see how there should be a distinction. Should be a distinction between us and them, not a weirdness, but a distinction between us and them, because we should be more like Christ. And while Samson wasn't doing that, God used his fault, if you would say that, as a great way to take out his enemy. And we will continue looking at that in the next couple of episodes. Greatly appreciate the privilege you give to me to be part of your day. Hope you stick with us as we continue to dive into Judges and look at the life of Samson. Again, thanks for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you again next time.